Okay, number 5. Does God really answer every true prayer? And what we're going to find out here is God has 3 answers. Yes, no, and wait. For example, the first one, 2 Corinthians 12, 8 and 9. This is the great apostle Paul writing, 3 times I prayed to the Lord about this and asked him to take it away. And his answer was, my grace is all you need, for my power is strongest when you are weak. And if you didn't pick up on that, the answer was no. Now let me talk just a little bit about this. We don't know precisely what this was. In the context here, maybe some of you have heard the phrase, a thorn in the side. That comes from the Bible. That's right from the Bible. And it's Paul who uses it. And right in this context here, he's talking about a thorn in his flesh or a thorn in his side. We don't know exactly what it was. Here's some educated guesses based upon what we do know in the Bible. Number 1 could be that he had just, generally speaking, very poor health and a very weak, frail system. Because it's very clear when he came to the Galatians, it gives the appearance when he came to them, he'd like had malaria or something, and yet they received him in, you know. So maybe malaria, something like that. The other possibility is that he had really, really bad eyesight. Based upon what? Well, remember when he was converted on the road to Damascus, he was blinded? And when he got his sight, he says it's as if what? As if scales fell from his eyes. And then coupled with that, in 1 or 2 at the end of his letters, he signs the letters personally in the original document, and he says, see with what big letters I write. So we're not sure what, and it really doesn't matter. Those are a couple of educated guesses. Anyway, whatever this was, Paul asked 3 times for it to be taken away, and basically Jesus said, no. Well, why not? Because my grace is sufficient for you. And to kind of paraphrase that, it gets back to your point, you know, sometimes, because he might say, I'm not going to take it away. Well, why not? Because I'm going to make you a stronger Christian through this. I'm going to increase your patience. I'm going to give you more courage and hope because of what you're going to have to endure here. Because by this, you're going to have to learn to lean on me. And that's sometimes why God says no. You know, I mean, and we're like children, because I don't know about you, but when I pray for something, you know what answer I want every time? Yes. And right now would be fine. But God treats us like a loving parent too, and sometimes he's going to say no for our own good to develop our character. How I usually say this, I don't know if you'll remember this or not, but when we pray, if God, in answer of our prayers, has to make a choice between our comfort and our character, and he doesn't always have to do that, I realize that. But if he has to make a choice between our comfort and our character, you already know which one he's going to choose, don't you? He's going to choose our character, even if it's through discomfort, okay, to make us a stronger Christian. I mean, what good is faith if everything's easy and good and, you know? It's real easy to have faith when everything's going hunky-dory. It's when things aren't so hunky-dory that calls for a lot of faith. Hunky-dory. I don't know if everybody understands. I come up with some weird sayings sometimes. All my travels in the world, you probably understood that. So that's what happened here. So the answer was no. The answer was no. Now, John 2:4, I don't know if this is the best illustration or not, but it's okay, I'll use it. John 2:4, my hour has not yet come. Now, the context here, this is Jesus speaking. He's speaking to his mother, and it's a wedding. It's at the wedding of Cana. And you remember they ran out of wine at the wedding of Cana? And Mary, being a good Jewish mom, comes to her son and says, Jesus, they've run out of wine. Yes, mother. There is some humor in there when you look at it. And basically, you know, she's hinting, and he says, Mom, it's my ministry. I'll be on my regular time schedule. Don't worry about it. My hour has not yet come. Of course, shortly thereafter, he changes the water into wine. And basically what we learn, you'll see from this, it says at his own time, in his own time. And that's true, right? Here's the overall statement on God's answering a prayer. He can say yes, which those are the ones we like. He can say no. And he can say wait, which means it's going to turn into a what? It's going to turn into a yes, but not immediately. Our dilemma from our human perspective is sometimes we may have a hard time distinguishing between a wait that's going to turn into a yes and a no. Now, there may be sometimes it's clear, like if we pray for somebody and they die, that's not a wait, is it? Yeah, they're not going to live. But there may be other situations. Let me give you an illustration. There was a lady here that was a member of our church, and she was probably in her 70s. This is in the early 90s. And she prayed for her son for over 30 years to become a Christian. 30 years. She just didn't give up. And 6 months before she died, and she died at hospice up at Northwest Hospital, 6 months before she died, he became a Christian. But after what? 30 years of praying. She just didn't give up. That was a wait, wasn't it? Yeah. So that's the way it is. We know a yes and we know a no, but sometimes when the wait, we're not sure what's going on here. And that's where the faith comes in again.